Well, I think I just fixed a problem that had been bothering me, and it was with the ice maker on our refrigerator. I thought the ice stopped working. The water worked. We have a water on the front of our door. That still worked. So I knew water was getting to it. I thought one of the solenoids in the back of the refrigerator had broken. There's two solenoids. One is activated when the water's pushed, and one is activated when there's a switch inside the freezer. And I knew this worked, so I thought it was a solenoid. I took it all apart, and I checked it with a multimeter for continuity. You put it on both prongs of the switch, and they both seem to work. And the way you do that is you set it to the ohm scale at around 200K. It says 1 on the multimeter, and when I touch it to positive and negative, there is absolutely no change. This should normally go down to 0. If I touch the negative lead here, see how it drops to 0? But when I do it through the fuse, there is no change. That means it's broken. Then I checked for voltage coming out of the machine. There's two wires that send the voltage in to open the solenoid. When we pushed the switch on the water maker, that got 120 volts AC. However, we could not get voltage to go to the solenoid. Now, the final way we tested the solenoids in the back, we checked for continuity, but I wanted to make sure I actually switched the green and the yellow power. So now I had power and the signal coming in from the water switch on the door, and the ice was going to the other one. When we came here and we pressed this switch for water at the door, we looked inside, and sure enough, water was coming in to the ice maker. So we knew that it wasn't the solenoid in the back, it was the signal coming from the front. So when we sent the signal from the switch in the door for water, it came in. So that's when we knew something was wrong up here. In one aspect, I was happy that it wasn't the solenoid and I didn't have to spend $50, but I was a little concerned I was going to have to buy a whole new unit here. So I took this off. I took this part off. And this had a cover plate on it. So this had this cover plate on it. And I took that off and I saw these gears and this adjuster. So I did end up taking off that screw and that screw, and I unplugged it from the back. There's a plug on right there. I unplugged that. And I took this whole unit off. And I noticed on the back of this cover plate, there's a wiring diagram, which is really convenient. And down here on the bottom, it's hard to see, it showed the wiring for a switch. So I took this nut, this screw, and this screw off. I took this off and took that off, and this whole plate came off. And when I took that whole plate off, there were 3 micro switches in there. And I was like, you know what? I bet the micro switch for the ice maker to send the water is broken. And I clicked it, and it sounded fine. The same issue we were having earlier with our microwave, where the switch broke, the micro switch broke. It's $7 to fix. I was like, I bet it's another micro switch. But it sounded good. So I got my multimeter out again, checked for continuity, and sure enough, the switch was fine. Just buy a generic micro switch that's either normally open or normally closed. 75728C. So if you look those up on Amazon, you will find that they are micro switches, and they're either normally open or normally closed. And it doesn't matter, you don't have to buy that code. Micro switches. That's all you need. You don't need the GE official $30 switch. So I'm like, so what sends the signal to the switch? And it turns out this switch is connected to this thing right here. So this is connected to that switch. That micro switch is down here. This thing was stuck. So I got my screwdriver I adjusted that screw, and that set the signal. The switch is activated by this dial. And when this rotates, there's a little cam in here, a little indentation. It opens the switch, causes water to come in through the back. However, ours was adjusted so it was too close. It was too close to the cam and it wasn't opening the switch. So after I had that all figured out, put it all back together, I loosened this, but not too much or else water will just continuously pour out of here. So you want to have a bucket ready. But I opened that just a little bit and then I pushed it back so that it would only open when this dial rotated. And that fixed it. One last thing it could also be is there is a filter up there. It could be a clogged filter. And I knew it wasn't the filter because this water worked. So if no water was coming out and no ice was coming out, it could be a clogged filter. And if it is a solenoid or it is a switch, I'll put links down in the description of where you can get those. So there's lots of things that can go wrong. Don't just start replacing parts. Don't just say, I think it's the solenoid, I'm going to buy a new one. I could have done that. It wouldn't have solved anything. So you have to go through and check everything with a multimeter. Okay, this works. Okay, this works. Oh, wait, it's not sending power. Why isn't it sending power? My switch was good, so the switch wasn't being activated. So I'm really happy that it didn't cost me anything. It was just that stuck adjustment screw. Too much and the water will just continuously pour out down your freezer, as I found out. Too little and that switch won't open and the water will never turn on. So you got to get it just right so when that gear turns, it has a little indentation and the switch pops open, water fills up, and then it shuts. So it turned out to be an easy fix. You had to diagnose it from the back. Okay, it's getting water, it's getting power, the solenoid works, the switch works, but the switch wasn't being activated. So that's what it was, that little adjustment, which is under this cover here. So I hope this helps. I hope this helps. You don't have to replace this whole unit. It could be a bad switch, it could be a bad solenoid, or it could just need adjusting like mine did. So hope it helps. Thanks.
Well, I hope you liked the video you just watched. If you did, feel free to subscribe by clicking the button on this side. You can also check out all the videos I've done, the playlist from things I've built, things I've fixed, home repair, 3D printing, and on this side you can check out a recommended video similar to the one you just watched. And as always, down in the description I'll put a link to my blog, which has more pictures and more information about the video you just watched. Thanks.